Luca Nation, we're back in we're back in the headquarters. We're back in the studio, and we missed you guys. We hope you had an amazing weekend. Tons of awesome stuff happening in the sports world, and we're back with another episode of Lucas Tigers and Bronzo My. I think episode 838 or 839. Winding down the year, 8 weeks, maybe 9 weeks left. We got Christmas coming up, Thanksgiving, Halloween, so a lot of good stuff. Cage, I got a few topics for today. One you might like, one you might not like as much. But before I do that, because I'm going to say something and then I might come back and, you're rubber, I'm glue, whatever you say bounces off me and sticks to you. We might do that whole thing.
I like this. I'm excited for this
a little bit more cautiously, but, here we are Monday. Probably got a ton of work calls to catch up on, family and all this stuff. Were you watching weekly with PWCC? Anything top of mind, with the DMs you're catching up on over the weekend? We're gone. It's a little bit harder to kind of, catch up and talk to people. Anything that's like sitting and pressing that you want to share?
I mean, like the auction last night, a lot of stuff ended, kind of where I thought it was going to end. Nothing was shocking, as far as like crazy stuff. I will say this. I noticed some hockey stuff ending a little better than I thought it would. I don't know if that's because, we could read into things, right? You can always read into things, right? Like, you want to say, well, where are the strong fan bases? Where are the strong collector bases, right? Hockey, right? There really hasn't been a hockey pump, right? Have you seen a hockey pump, right? There's no 90s like PMG to pump, the PMGs are the retro, which no one really cares about, they sell for what they sell for. There hasn't really been a hockey pump, but like, I saw over the weekend some Sidney Crosby stuff sell for higher than I've seen it sell for, higher than higher than it's done before. I've seen some hockey sales.
I think Carlotter posted a McDavid sale, a pretty huge one in the 100,000, right?
Yeah, a McDavid sale was a big one. But like for example, there's a Crosby basket, the cup on Collectible, and it's I think the basket is like 100 or 110, something like that, and one like a BGS 9 of the Crosby sold for like $70,000. Like it's way below like the basket value. So anyway, it's just there's stuff like that. Normally, the fractional stuff that's way too high. Like the Milton Bradley, Nolan Ryan ended this weekend on Golden for like half of what it's trading for on Collectible. That's normally what you see. But when you see a card like that Crosby, like the hockey cards selling for more, those kind of stand out to me. And it is one topic that I go in with, which is, rides. Yeah, look at the skates. So the skates, the memorabilia, and the different kind of sneakers, you and I have beat the hell out of that one. Like those are very very specific. That's it. That is the one right there. I would venture to say. I wasn't on Collectible today, but I would think it might be moving up today because a BGS 9. So that basket has a 9 and a 9.5. A 9 sold for significantly more than half of what that basket's at.
The basket is sitting at 138K market.
Right. So, and I think it's moved up a little bit because it was last week like 120 maybe. I think the one BGS 9 sold in the 70s. Anyway, it's I only lead in with that not to talk fractional or anything like that. I've seen different sides of the market in different decades. I've heard people complain. I even heard somebody say at the Chantilly show, this is it's giving me 90s flashbacks. It's the 90s now. Only the difference is, instead of having $50 cards that you're sitting with, you now have $500 to $1,000 cards that aren't going to move, that aren't going to be
adjusted for inflation. I would argue that's actually very similar if you kind of price it out relative. Yeah, because we think of the number, but like my grandpa used to always say, like, how much bread can you buy with that, right? Because he would always kind of like benchmark it, or the denominator always use kind of like
it is a great
or milk.
It's a great point you make, right? Because I was telling my Uber driver, whose son was down in Virginia, whose son was up playing sports in New York. They're playing against Binghamton. And I'm like, Binghamton, tuition. No, he's playing baseball. He was playing. He said, I told him Binghamton tuition in the 90s is like $2,000. So what is it now? Maybe it's, 10 times that, 15 times that. So you're right. You talk about difference between $50 cards, $500 cards is sometimes just the passing of time. But I guess where I'm going with it is, we have people listening and thinking about, like, what do you do with their cards? Like, what do you do with the collection? What's going on with the market? And I think maybe it's going to be helpful, and maybe we spread this out over a bunch of episodes, right? Maybe we talk about the different corners of the market, the different segments of the market. We, instead of just looping this one big hobby, one big word, the hobby. Oh, the hobby's in trouble. The hobby. I don't think that's true. There are obviously, I mean, Card Ladder does a good job with it with their indexes, but even those you have to really, pour through the data on it to see what that index is really representing, right? But there are different areas that do different things, that behave differently, like memorabilia. We got exposed to that this past week, right? We were in a room at that Chantilly show, and guys, take a look on YouTube at our video. You can just look behind us and just see walls of helmets. And Andrew kind of like, move the computer around a little bit to kind of show a little bit, like stacks of jerseys, and that there's a personal connection to that there, right? And even the athletes like meeting the athletes. We saw, Doug Williams, quarterback of the Washington Redskins, first African American to win a Super Bowl. We saw athletes, shaking hands with him, like Champ Bailey, who came after him. We saw, quarterback crossings because we were in Washington, D.C. area. So, you had Mark Rippon going this way and Joe Theismann going this way and Terry McLaurin going this way. And, you just had crazy stuff going on there. And the athletes talking to each other, meeting each other, getting each other's phone numbers. Barry Foster, like, hey, let me take a picture of Mike Tyson. And that's fun. Those, we haven't seen 2 years ago, 3 years ago, coronavirus happens and boom, the price of a Mike Tyson signed glove went from $100 to $500. It didn't happen, right? So people who collect or in the hobby from that side, they're not, I don't want to say feeling the same pain, but they're not going through the same kind of, what's going to happen now with the hobby, because they didn't have this same roller coaster that a lot of the stuff, a lot of people did. Same thing with like vintage. Maybe with hockey. I mean, each one has kind of gone on its little different trajectory, right? Ultra Moderns had a very different ride, right? So, I mean, we kind of come out here, we do the best we can to kind of summarize the hobby, but I think it might actually make sense to kind of go through, like the different areas. Some of them are healthier than others, I think. That was kind of what my thought process.
There.
Well, that was my thought process at the show, because, we're not just... So I'll take a step back for myself, right? I go to a lot of shows, a lot. I go to shows. I'm in the front of the house is what we'll call it, right? Like, I'll walk around. I got Ian. I got a case of cards. I see people trading. We ask the dealers how they're doing. But you never really get to see behind the curtain and like all the other business being done at a show, all the other setups that goes into it. I don't want to talk about that because we spent time over the weekend on that in the episode. But it opens your eyes to just different segments of the hobby. And then I tried to look at like all the people who were, tagging CSA shows afterwards and look at that content. And then there are people there who are just trading hockey cards. People, I went in there just for a hockey card. I went there just to get this. And, I traded these. I'm a T206 guy, and I was just looking for these couple of I did Cracker Jack cards. So, it's funny because, look, we kind of have to. We talk to you guys for half an hour a day. It's the hobby. Prices are up, prices are down, buy the PMGs, stay away from retro stuff. But there's so much more there. And I think, you say there's a lot to unpack. I think the one thing that I unpacked from it is, I'm not going to say buy what you love, but I understand where that came from, because I think what makes this hobby amazing is that there's, different things for people who come from, I'm a hockey fan, I'm a baseball fan, I'm a this, I'm a that, and, I think the more you kind of, peel that layer back, the more you realize this hobby's been here for a long time and it will be here for a long time.
Well, I met, his name is Mike Stoner, and you're gonna laugh.
Of course he did.
I knew you're gonna laugh.
Of course he did.
He was Mickey Mantle's agent's lawyer.
See,
and he's good friends with Mickey Mantle, a guy a little bit older in age, and he sold iconic photos that were autographed by athletes and authenticated, and then he would make the frame really cool by doing hand kind of carved inscriptions of like the logo. So like if we use like the Yankees, it would be hand carved into the frame, and because it was art and not like licensing, it's not an issue with trademarks and things like that, but the photo is authenticated and signed by the athlete, and that's a huge business, and that has nothing to do with speculation. That's souvenirs, right?
Yep.
That's like, I wanted to buy he had a photo of Pele doing the bicycle kick, and Pele signed
that photo, huge. That's a gift that I would love to get from my dad. And is it a good investment for $500? I mean, Pele cards sell for $4,000 or $5,000, right? So you're talking about an iconic photograph of Pele scoring a bicycle kick with a huge auto on it. It just opens your eyes. I was thinking a lot about the scientific method, and
Ooh, okay.
like COVID, it changed our habits in a lot of ways. Right? They say like 60, 90 days to change habits. Well, COVID was probably like a 2-year thing where we were just at home. And what happens when you're at home, you think, right? Like you think a little bit too much. Or let me actually take, I won't say you think too much, but you create theories, whether those macro or micro theories. Like, a macro theory might be like F1's the next best investment, right? It's a theory.
Mm-hmm.
A micro theory could be like, Mahomes is the next Jordan, right? So you have these macro micro theories, but it's important to get out of your own head and go test them, right? That's the whole thing with scientific method. We oftentimes believe things to be true that aren't such. That's the most dangerous thing in life, is when you believe something to be true that isn't that way. So it's really important to test theories. And I think going to a show really allows kind of the rubber to hit the road where, let's say you have a theory, like mine was, I think Jordan Poole's a great, like, kind of speculative buy. Well, amazing, Andrew. Pat on the back for making that up. But what do dealers say? Do they want to buy the cards, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you can go a step further. Like, hey, I think select courtside, even if it's a fast break disco, is a better buy than the blue prism. Amazing theory, but go test that. Go see where there's more demand. Go to 50 dealers and don't worry about the sale, but get a pulse of, do they want to buy? Do they not want to buy? What are they asking? How much are they confident at? How are they thinking about this market, right? And be able to come back with your theory that's had holes poked through it and see if it kind of stands the test of time. And I think going to shows allows you to do that, because online, it's just a bunch of opinions being thrown at each other. Joe Rogan once said Twitter is like a bunch of monkeys throwing feces at each other. And in a lot of ways, that's what, social media in general is, right?
Yep.
And we believe so strongly in these opinions as if they're facts, but the reality is they're not facts, they're opinions.
I believe that the Yankees are going to come back and win 4 straight games. Let's go. Clearly dangerous when you believe.
Without bringing this, let me just set the framework. Without making this about, Andrew and yelling at me and making
Jesus, here we go.
How do you explain to just the public that you guys had so many empty seats in a season where Judge had an iconic season, 62 home runs, MVP, almost triple crown, where you guys had an amazing, amazing year, and you have so many empty seats in New York?
Well, so a couple reasons. I don't know if this is about Andrew. I don't know how I would make this about Andrew. One of my friends, Al, he messaged me about, an hour before the game started, which it would take me longer than that to get to the stadium. But there was a delay. I mean, the game was delayed. The game was supposed to be 7 o'clock. It started like 9, right? It was because of weather. I mean, it's bad weather here. And this is going to happen more and more often, not because we want to get an advantage over Cleveland, although, you can argue whatever you want. But World Series is going to go well into November now, probably. We're going later and later into the season. And, it's for TV. It's more rounds. It's all this other fun stuff. And it was never like this. The weather's going to be worse, and you're going to have more rain, especially here in New York. It rained today. It rains almost every day. So there was a delay. So that's part of it. It's not a covered stadium. So it would already be bad, poorly attended anyway because of the rain and because of the weather. It's a Sunday night game, now getting later. It ended after midnight with the delay. Well after midnight. But he messaged me an hour before the game started, and he's like, hey, you want to go to the game? Like, you could say you saw Judge's last at bat as a Yankee, and right now the StubHub cheapest ticket, the get-in price, people like say that, was $18. He messaged me. He's like, here you go, $18. We could say you saw Judge's last game, And I laughed. Maybe I gave it a little half a thought, right? But it's not the easiest thing to get back from. But, there's a lot of things. One, weather. Two, they're down 3-0, right? And people don't want to watch the Astros celebrate on your field, and the way they had been playing, the chances are that was going to wind up happening. So I could give it a lot of reasons why, and in addition to that, where you see on TV those seats, So they're not showing you the bleachers, which are packed. They're not showing you the 400 levels. They're showing you behind home plate and around first base. They're showing you where like P. Ryan and Alex Giaimo, who came very close to earning an unfollow last night from me. They went
mean to your Yankees.
No, I mean, you say I don't really care who wins, but then there's a slant. But P. Ryan bought her seat. He's sitting there with an Astros thing on. I mean, obviously she's got to be slanted where where your bread is buttered. But anyway, point being, those seats are almost never full. Those are legend seats. That's corporate seats. So the seats you see on TV, those seats they're paid for by companies. They're paid for by by people who are looking to give them away to people anyway. I was offered tickets for every game. Saturday, which we were there for. Sunday, I asked for Monday tickets, which they're not going to be tickets now. But I was offered tickets on all of them, and I passed because it's a pain in the ass to get there from where I live. But more importantly, who wants to go watch them lose?
So we once had this argument about how much coaching matters. Mm-hmm. You're a believer that coaching doesn't matter a ton. This is something that I vehemently disagree. I think coaching is so important. And if you actually look at the athletes we love to invest in the most, Mahomes, Curry, Jordan.
I think it matters a lot more in baseball and a lot more in football than basketball. I think my take is much more basketball. That's more star-driven.
Agreed. How important is fans? Like,
if you believe the Yankees, they were telling the fans to be quiet. Harrison Bader complained that he dropped the ball on Saturday because the Yankee fans were too loud.
He really said that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, hey, Yankee fans, be quiet. It's too loud in here. You're being too loud. No, but I like where you're going. I think you and I got to talk to the next Yankee manager, by the way, this weekend.
Don Mattingly? That would be sick. That would be kind of cool. He was when I brought up to him that, hey, Don, like, what do you think? Like, if baseball doesn't change things in 20 years, could they be out of business? That wasn't like a surprising question. That was a question like he's had that question in the boardroom because that's a serious thing that's top of mind. That was the vibe I got.
Yeah. And he had his answer ready to go about we're making some changes. But he actually said you were right. He said if we didn't make changes.
Is the biggest change to bring Philly fans to every city? Have you seen another city with fans like that?
What do you mean? What's different about it? They're winning. Any city that has winning fans, like if you watched the game last night and you watched after the Yankees lost, Houston fans were there celebrating with their people in New York celebrating. They look exactly the same as Philly fans. Okay. And when you win, fandom is great when you win. Everybody wants to, yell and scream. We have ticker tape parades also when the Yankees win. You want to know how great the Philly fans are, watch them when they lose.
We're equally as passionate, but just with the other tilt. Like when we lose, we want to fight, brawl.
There's a jail in the stadium for a reason.
Right. But I don't know. I just think that's cool because there was the Philly's a shithole. And in a lot of ways, I think why Philly fans are so passionate is because there's really not much else to do in that city other than eat cheesesteaks and root for your team.
So right now, if you are a Philly fan and you want to watch this game, you want to go see a game live in the World Series, it is actually cheaper for you to book a flight, get a hotel, and buy a seat in Houston and fly back than to get in and just watch the game in Philly.
Isn't that
crazy, right? It's nuts. It's like $1,500 get in right now for a World Series at Philly and
we love our sports, man. And I didn't even go to the game. We went to when the Phillies won the World Series. I was in college. It was insane. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the whole city was just going absolutely nuts, climbing on flagpoles, just doing the dumbest shit. Honestly, but watching how excited people, the fans, when Bryce hit that home run or Riz hit that home run. They're just on it all day. The entire game, they're going absolutely crazy. And I believe that does help a team win.
I'm sure. I mean, listen, you could pick up energy from the fans, and I'm sure the energy from the Yankee fans were probably crappy last night. I mean, you can see after it ended, there's a lot of Houston fans there. Plus, I mean, look, it's great, right? When you win, the victor gets to write history, right? So, it's great.
I would say the Yankees have won way more than the Phillies.
Cleveland, but yes, but what I'm about to say is Cleveland did the whole rock the baby, and after we beat them, we were able to say it back to them. So last night, you had the Astros saying, "Well, Yankee fans asked for Houston, they got Houston." They're able to put that in there. What I don't exactly get is there's a lot of Red Sox fans today Red Sox didn't even win 80 games this year. They were last place in the division, but all of a sudden they adopt Houston. There's a hatred, a Yankee fan hatred out there, which is, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, well, they cheated.
Well, I don't care about that. Honestly, they didn't cheat this year. I mean, but you can make it pretty clear that they did cheat. I mean, Jose Altuve he couldn't hit the side of a barn. Like he's terrible. Like he couldn't hit anything. Like you could throw a beach ball up there and he'd swing and miss at it because he's got to keep
runs.
the jersey.
I hate how he runs the bases. It really bothers me.
I mean, listen, for the Yankees, I like the Raiders when I was growing up because they were always a competitive team when Al Davis was an owner. Like they always were. They were like the Steelers. They might not win the Super Bowl, but they were going to give you a competitive team every year. That stopped recently. They've been pretty terrible. But in the Yankees, look, I mean, they won in 2009. Sorry, they beat Philly, right? So that was the last time they won. But so we got 13 seasons since. In those 13 seasons, they've only missed the playoffs 3 times. Right? They've been eliminated in the wild card 2 of those times.
Right.
Which means that they've played meaningful baseball series in 8 of the last 13 years. They haven't won a World Series. They've been eliminated in the World Series. They've been eliminated. Right. They've eliminated in the championship round. But they give you a team that it's always going to go out there. Like the words "rebuilding year" are just not in their vocabulary. They're always going to give the fans something.
And then you add Judge to that too, who has a legendary year on top of that. That's why I was so surprised. I'm like, dude, like. You got to show out for your city. You have the biggest city in basically America. How can you not fill a stadium?
I think it's LA does the same thing, right? I mean, you watch LA is always empty.
Do you want to be LA?
No, but look, it's an elimination game on a Sunday night after a rain delay. I'm not surprised that the most expensive seats in there. Also, by the way, you should know with bad weather and cold, those seats come with indoor. So a lot of those people go inside. It's like all you can eat. There's like lobster and shrimp and fancy and drinks and food, and it's all included. So I would venture to say that the seats you were looking at empty were probably a lot of people were inside, taking advantage of the amenities, staying a little warmer and that kind of stuff. I know because I've done it myself.
Let me ask you guys who listen. I'm not going to say who is the best sports city because that's way too big. Who has the most passionate fan base across sports? Basketball, football, baseball.
I'll tell you this: I like that Philly has the stadiums like right on top of each other. Like right next to each other. That's pretty cool. Like I've been there when there were games in both on the same day, like morning and
you just tailgate all day.
That's pretty nuts. Like there's some violence in the parking lots on those days because people are drinking for like 12 hours.
And let's like contextualize violence. Like you actually have never heard anything like seriously violent. We're just like it's like a passionate, aggressive fan base, but like. The reality is,
there's fights. I saw plenty of fights.
There's fights, but like it doesn't like escalate. It's just I don't know how to explain it. I think the Philly people know what I'm referencing.
I just love cheesesteaks in the ballpark. That's a good time right there. It's a good time. Just get a cheesesteak.
A year ago, maybe a little over a year ago, people were like buying they're spending tons of money on the prospects, and you're like, hey guys, you guys have a world champion, MVP named Bryce Harper right there, and he's younger than Aaron Judge. You want to take a look at this guy? Do you think Bryce's market is going to start catching up?
He's got to win, and I don't think he's going to win. So
you think Houston beats them?
Oh, Houston's going to be a monstrous favorite in this series. Monstrous.
Houston's going to be a monstrous favorite in this series.
You can look it up. Look it up now.
That might be the worst thing that could happen because this is the city that gave you Rocky. So if we're the favorites, we can get a little arrogant and a little bit like boastful. But you put us as huge underdogs, the city's going to rally crazy.
Well, they're going to be underdogs. I mean, come on. They're the last team in. They were 6th seed. They won 80-something games. Houston has been, the best team in the American League, if not the best team in the league all year, 106 wins or whatever the hell they won. They have Verlander, they have Lockdown, they have, the Phillies got good pitchers.
Plus 150.
Underdog. Is that for game 1 or for the series?
Series. Minus 180 to win the championship, or the Astros plus 1 Philly. The books take
I'm actually a little surprised by that.
20% big on it.
I thought it would be a little worse than that. So that's good. That's good because it'll be a competitive series. So
it's like 60-40%.
I'm going to throw a little fun one out there. Anybody listening or watching this, if anybody remembers that episode, everybody's like, oh, I bought some Bryce Harper because of that. Great. Message me.
Sell.
We can talk about sell.
Sell your Judge. Sell your Bryce Harper right now.
Was I wrong? Was I? That was like the best sports take of 2022. We'll get to that in a second. I don't hear anything from the sports card nonsense guys anywhere. I mean, no, but I can't do face to camera because you weren't telling me to do that back a year ago when I was talking about Bryce Harper. I would have said buy Bryce Harper. But I'll give you my Bryce analysis in a second. But the point is, if somebody bought Bryce, I know a lot of people did. Send me a message. Tell me, what you bought. Let's put some pictures up. I'll put it in my story. I'd love to clip that. There's so many episodes. I don't even know how to find it or where to find it. I wish we had a team of 400 people working with us who could just put out that content, because this morning or 5 minutes after he hit that home run, I would have had a clip of my ugly mug, probably much fatter mug, saying a year ago, "Well, you got to buy Bryce Harper." And
you did get a compliment from Papa G, which is like the ultimate compliment. He's like, "You're not drinking that much soda, and by the way, you look really good."
Papa G noticed. 60 pounds will do that, man. 60 pounds will do that. Okay, so Bryce came in. Bryce is a great example of what people should pay attention. This is an education, if you allow me. I know we're 25 minutes in. Bryce is a perfect example of a cycle, right? So it's baseball. It's a little bit different, right? But we've seen Tatis investors. We've seen Vlad Guerrero. We've seen, Alonso. We've seen, Soto. We've seen all these guys, all these investors. Acuna, like every one of these guys. See Judge, whoever it is, right? Bryce came in with as much fanfare as any of them combined. Think Dominguez, right? Think Dominguez type. But Bryce came in as a kid, right? He 09 Bowman card for the USA under-18 team was the first card. I remember it was in Strasburg's Bowman also. And then, later on, obviously, you got to 2011, you got the Bowman autos, and 2011 and 12 Topps cards, Topps season, and Topps Chromies, and Topps update. There's plenty of cards for him. But he came in basically as, everybody said he was going to be Mantle. Everybody said he was going to be Mickey Mantle. And he was one of these guys. He reminded me of the San Francisco Giants, where he would go one great year, one off year. You remember when the Giants would win the World Series every other year, right?
I remember that. That's when I fell in love with baseball. I was living in the Bay.
Right, so it's like 52 home runs, and then it's like, oh shit,
Pablo
210.
Sandoval, Bruce Bochy.
Yeah, exactly. And the
Hunter Pence. I love Hunter Pence, man.
Who was it that they played? Who basically it doesn't matter.
Cardinals, Kansas City Royals.
Yeah. So point being, the expectations for Bryce were so high that it was basically impossible for him to live up to the hype, right? And the card prices that were being, with all the hype built in and all the expectations built in, made it nearly impossible for him to be worth what people were running the cards up to. And then what happens is a little bit of momentum drop, a little bit of injury, a little bit of an off season, a little bit he doesn't follow an MVP year with another MVP year. He's not taking a team to the World Series. It's taken a little while. All of a sudden, Mike Trout is better. Everybody likes Mike Trout. Mike Trout's better. And the Bryce Harper also, I don't want to call him Russ Wilson, but before this last couple of years where he's just basically been the bearded wonder in Philly and they've adopted him as one of their own, he was this young kid who broke the rules. And the game was a little different at the time, right? Now it's like, oh, flip your bat, have some fun. Who cares? It's the funny era. He was the guy who was going out there, and when the old outfielder was loafing to a ground ball, he was running to stretch it out to a double and embarrassing people. He was fat flipping. He was being arrogant, and people were like, we're gonna beat him. He was often getting hit by pitches. He was one of those guys that baseball kind of thing I put to the side, and so did collectors, because it was almost impossible to live up to it. And if you look last year, you had good rookie cards of his selling for $100, very good ones. I can guarantee you, if somebody pulls that, any single card that we said to buy on Bryce is double what we said to buy now. Even though when we told people to buy it, the market was at its peak. It's sort of like a Jalen Hurts thing, which I said in the beginning of this season too, right? That you should be, if you're looking to really invest in a quarterback, Jalen Hurts, none of these other guys, because Hurts hadn't run yet. Harper was more of a contrarian play. Harper's somebody people don't realize he is a year younger than Aaron Judge. He's 29 years old, right? This guy, he'll be 30 next season. Aaron Judge will be 31 in April of next season. And if you look at his career numbers, significantly higher, significantly more in almost every category, right? He's got the MVPs, right? The only fun thing knock on him was his team traded him and then went on to win the World Series. Think about that for a second, right? So Washington traded him. Washington let him go, right? The year he left, Washington with Soto, the new flavor of the month, and their pitching, of course, they went on to win a World Series without him. And I think that turned him into somebody who you could root for. Because instead of him coming out and being like, okay, he's got all these expectations, and anything he doesn't do well, you can be like, ha, he didn't live up to it. Now he's been beat down. He'd been playing for a decade already, right? He'd been playing for a decade, and he didn't get to win that World Series, right? The team won it without him. So now you're like, all right, Philly's the perfect place for him. He took what I would consider a city-friendly contract looking at it now, right? He took one of these, I want to play here, and I want to play here for the rest of my career. I'm giving you guys a discount, and I believe it is, based on his production, one of the better contracts in baseball. And look what he's doing. He has been every bit of that contract and more, and now you're pulling for the guy. And when you get people rooting for the guy, that's the only time you get one of these down. Once you're down far enough, okay, he may never get up to the place where he was, but now you can root for him. Now he's got people on his side.
I'm worried about Herbert following a similar path. I'm very, very much worried about all of the money that's been sunk into Herbert, and I wonder if he follows a similar path to what you just described with Bryce.
I mean, it very well could be. I mean, Herbert looks talented.
But his expectations are so high, Cage.
You know what's funny is I don't know if they really were coming out. Like, he wasn't the number one draft pick. Like Bryce was one of these 19-year-old cover of Sports Illustrated, like the next hope for baseball, saving it. But you're right. I mean, Herbert has become that.
But it doesn't matter at that point when he's coming out anyway, because the cards aren't available.
Yep.
Right. So like when all the hype of like the 18-year-old prodigy, it doesn't matter. You can't buy his Topps update anyway. So like
it's true. It's true. I remember buying. I remember submitting to Beckett his under 18 USA card, but nobody really wants that card anymore.
Right. So like it takes a little time for the cards to be an opportunistic. But like I was at the show, and I mean, there's a lot of Herbert autos and Herbert patch cards that no one's touching.
That is part of the problem, right? I mean, there's a lot of it. There's a lot of it too. You know what I mean? And when he's performing, if he's gonna look, Josh Allen stuff. Right now with Josh Allen doing what he's doing, and looks like the favorite for the MVP and possibly the Super Bowl, right? Because Mahomes can beat anybody in the NFC. Mahomes just didn't beat Josh Allen. So right now,
regular season game, we'll take a look when he beats them in the playoffs again.
Fine, Mahomes is a different story because Mahomes has already had his run, already won. I'm going to use Josh Allen as an example, right? And you can use Mahomes too, by the way. I'm making a comparison between someone who's very good and Justin Herbert, who I don't think is. Someone who didn't have the expectations that Herbert did coming out. Mahomes is actually in the same category as opposed to Herbert, who just started high and has continued high. Right. Allen has done one of these kind of things. But when you're just still doing this and you haven't hit that bump yet, like Herbert going down, the showcases, people will buy the elite. People will buy the Spectra. People will buy the Obsidian autos of Josh Allen because the other stuff is so high into the stratosphere now that it's like, all right, well, I got to get some exposure to Josh Allen as he makes this MVP and Super Bowl run. The ancillary stuff gets bought. The PSA 9s get bought. The SGC 9s get bought, right?
The Obsidian card is the card that I was actually thinking about as I was talking about Herbert. That was the guy who was like, last comp is 900. I'll do 750 on this.
Well, because Obsidian's funny. I say that. And because now on Herbert, the cards you do want are coming down. And the demand for the good stuff is coming down, but he's got 5 billion other cards like Obsidian. And the dealer sitting with Obsidian is like, nobody wants the Obsidian because people have the ability now as this, wave crests to get the Herberts that people actually want. Now,
do you think, Cage, when a play like that cardboard relevant kind of theory that you've patented and you probably will draw it out and put it in a book one day, when that cardboard relevance to cardboard irrelevance happens, that period, there's a supply shock that hits the market, right?
Oh yeah, it's scary. It's a wave cresting, comes crashing down.
So like the wave cresting is in effect, and the cause is a lot of supply.
Correct.
When you have a guy that's on a steady trajectory, there's no turbulence, right? Like you have that lift off and then you have no turbulence. Yep. So there's no supply shock.
And it's always easier because those guys are ones where they have two things working for them. Number one, their expectation starts low, so they're able to build. When your expectation, like Herbert, starts high, there's only no. It's very hard to stay that high.
Yeah, the shield is going to outsell a Mantle 10 next.
But more importantly, someone like Herbert, who came out in a huge boom time and had all the expectation at the beginning, the products that came out, there's more and more and more, and he's in everything. Someone like Josh Allen, actually, he's a Wyoming quarterback, a guy who's going to scramble a little. They didn't put as much of his stuff in these sets, you know what I mean? And that actually helps.
Example. A lot of you guys might not know this, but Mahomes doesn't have a 2017 Kaboom. He doesn't have a rookie Kaboom because he wasn't as revered.
100% right.
And it's like a little subtle stuff, but like it kind of gives you a little perspective into like, whoa, what Cage is saying is accurate and true.
I mean, listen, it doesn't make Mahomes a bad investment. I think Mahomes is starting to get into that category now where, people are dumping. People are, you see a loss against Josh Allen, and people like me come on and be like, oh, Josh Allen's going to win the MVP in the Super Bowl. But there's going to be somebody like you who says, not so fast. It's a regular season game. Do it when it matters. Come to Kansas City, or we'll come to Buffalo, and Mahomes is going to beat you and win the Super Bowl. And all of a sudden, then the trolley starts moving back uphill. And if that's your guy, this is where the hobby gets fun. If that's your guy, and you think the prices have hit a point now where they're too low, you buy Mahomes. But what do you buy?
He's more accessible now than before, but it's just still the same thing. His expectations are so high that he just put a 44 on the best defense in the league, and people aren't even batting an eyebrow.
Nope.
Right? Like and that game versus Josh Allen, I mean, both looked phenomenal, So you
that's the same kind of thing, right? You just feel when you watch those guys, whoever touches the ball last is going to win.
Right. And I mean, you watch Mahomes, you're like, he's wildly exceptional. Any thoughts on NBA season week 1? Anything with cards that you want to like?
I mean, I saw something funny today. I was going to post it, but I didn't want to steal it from Twitter. I saw a picture. It was like a adult Lego costume. So it was like a Lego brick, and you wear it like it's like red Lego with like the little Lego buttons, and it was like, everybody go get your Russell Westbrook costumes now before they sell out. So I thought that was funny.
I said this last year. This is one of the things I might dislike the most, and this isn't LeBron's fault, but this is LeBron's fans. At what point can you have two conflicting arguments and pretend that they don't overlap? You guys are out here saying he's the greatest player of all time, or top 3, and just this prodigy, incredible, blah blah blah. And at what point is he going to take responsibility for this team as a leader? Like, you can't have it both ways. You can't say he's the alpha, the best, the greatest. He's so incredible. Look at his stats. And then keep pegging blame on the rest of his team his entire career.
All right. I mean, listen, I think LeBron, fans would probably say, he's at the point in his career where he shouldn't have to be the alpha on his team. Kareem was great, but Kareem had Magic step up and take over, and they brought in Magic and James Worthy and the whole 9 yards. And, that's what Anthony Davis is supposed to do. When he came in, he was supposed to be a top 10 player, and he's supposed to take over, and he hasn't. So that's more on Davis. And then they brought in Westbrook.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah, please.
Let's throw percentages, because not all on Davis. It's not all on LeBron. It's not all on the coach, and it's not all on the GM. But what percentage of that is water or air fills a vacuum? So what I mean by that is, how much of it is LeBron actually being that leader, or providing that guidance, or whatever words you want to use to help somebody step into that role?
I'm sure that's a lot of it, but who's he going to help? Anthony Davis? He came down on the floor hard the other night. I thought he was going to be out for another 6 to 8 weeks. I mean, he's not out there enough.
Who has he helped in his entire career, step up, Cage? Would be my question to you.
All right, I get it, but you know what? I can't believe I'm defending LeBron, but maybe I give him. No, I was going to give him a pass, and maybe I don't give him a pass. Right? I was going to say, these leaders, like, who did Kobe make better?
I don't think he made people better.
Me neither. But nobody attacks him the way they attack LeBron. They just say Kobe was out there.
No,
he was a GOAT. He was a this.
No. They attack him relentlessly his entire career. He can't play with Shaq. He got chased out of Shaq. He chased out Shaq. He can't win without Shaq. He's a ball hog that doesn't pass. They attacked him and held him accountable his entire career.
Doesn't seem to matter now. He's a deity, right? So maybe we attack LeBron now, but in 5 years, people are not going to care about the fact that he's not helping Anthony Davis and Russell Westbrook in the
We never
27th season.
give him a
of his career.
pass. We just turn a blind eye. We give him a pass. And LeBron stands out there. They're always sharing content of how the rest of LeBron's team sucks and how LeBron has a stat line of 32, 12 rebounds, and 6 assists. And it's like he's some kind of greatness because he could put up stats, but they're not going to ever hold him accountable the way every single other great has been held accountable. And
Let me ask you a question. If it costs you money, even if the Lakers you're Russell Westbrook, the Lakers come to you and they say, we could work a trade out for you. You could pick the team. I don't care. It's the hypothetical, right? We can send you here. It's good for the organization. We're going to get some draft picks or whatever it is. They're going to send back nobody. But you're making $50 million a year now. You got to take you got to take a couple $1 million, but you're going to be the clear cut one on this team. Do you go?
I'm Westbrook?
You're Westbrook.
Westbrook's really simple to understand. Westbrook's just going to do what Westbrook does. He's done it his entire career.
But it doesn't answer the question. What does Westbrook do? I don't know what that means. Well, does he leave? Does he stay?
He's a relentless attacker who's wildly inefficient as a shooter.
Would you leave? If you're Russell Westbrook, do you want to get out of there? Do you want to be the number one and be relentless and put up your numbers and score and have a chance at redemption? Or do you just stay in the Lakers?
I don't know that question matters at all. I don't understand the question.
Okay, so I'll ask it again.
No, I don't want to move my family again. I'm living in in an awesome city in LA. I don't want to move.
Okay, all right. So then you did answer the question. You did understand that it's you'd rather stay there with amidst the ridicule in a team that you clearly don't want to play with, and a
I've
team
been ridiculed my whole career.
Doesn't look like they want to play with you instead of getting a fresh start somewhere else. So I'm asking this for a reason. I think Russell Westbrook could potentially be a Bryce Harper type candidate. I do. I really do.
Westbrook's terrible. Westbrook doesn't know his own strengths and weaknesses. He is a wildly
So is this something you're blaming on LeBron?
Yeah. LeBron wanted Westbrook to be there. He should.
So what should LeBron be doing? What should LeBron be doing with Westbrook?
LeBron wanted Westbrook.
Okay, so what should he be doing?
Who would have been a much better fit, who's a three-point shooter and doesn't need as much of the ball in his hand, would have been a much better fit. But LeBron wanted to play with Westbrook.
Okay, so what should he be doing with Westbrook to make Westbrook better? What is LeBron not doing that he should be doing?
Westbrook is like that guy who will never change his stripes. Westbrook's game today is the exact same game it was.
So then what could LeBron do? How could you blame LeBron for not trying to change Westbrook when in the next sentence you say Westbrook can't be changed because he is what he is?
I never said that. It's LeBron's fault that Westbrook is playing poorly.
I just asked you that. You blame LeBron for that, and you said yes. And I said, okay, well, what should LeBron do differently? And you said, well,
I don't think that Westbrook playing poorly is on LeBron. I've said that I think LeBron needs to be held accountable the same way that other greats have been held accountable.
Okay, so Westbrook
is not the number one on that team. He's the number 3.
Okay, so Westbrook's on his team now. You're saying LeBron should be helping his teammates make his team better. What should he be doing?
Well, Westbrook can't be playing in the crunch time ever. Westbrook is not a final 5-minute player. Ever.
Okay,
he's not a good defender. He's not a good shooter. He's not a good free throw shooter.
Number one, LeBron should have a conversation with the coach and say, "Coach, I don't think Westbrook should be in a crunch time." What else should LeBron be doing?
So I'll give you an example. Mm-hmm. Last year, they didn't have a great season, right?
Yeah.
Going into this season, he's fresh. They had the entire year.
Mm-hmm.
How can you, on the stat sheet, or how do you see competitiveness, right? Just taking over a game, right? You can't really see that, but you can only see it if you're watching, right?
Yeah, of course.
Do you see LeBron assert his dominance in these games?
No, not at all.
You could assert your dominance.
So wait. I love you, man. I'm just trying to understand. LeBron stans are going to talk about his stats, but he needs to be held accountable because he's not making his team better. But the way to make his team better is for him to just take every last second shot and ignore the fact that it's a team. I'm trying to understand.
A lot of 3 different points that you're kind of mushing together with crazy glue and putting all together. But
no, this is your point. I'm trying to understand your point. I'm putting myself in the shoes of a listener. You say LeBron stans have.
If you're going to make LeBron the greatest,
mm-hmm.
the greatest is not just a stat-driven category. Okay,
Yeah.
the greatest is stats, accomplishments,
Mhm.
and then intangibles,
Okay.
leadership, and competitive drive.
Okay.
We love competitive drive as humans.
Yeah, of course.
People that will their teams to win
Mhm.
in like in short form. He sees the team he has around him.
Yes.
I haven't seen him will his team to win a game in like 2-3 years, like probably since the bubble. And he shoots shots from the logo that are air balls. He plays absolutely no defense. He's lackadaisical. He does these like one-handed passes. Assert your dominance and just relentlessly compete for every minute that you're on the floor. You know what you have with Westbrook. You can't change that. AD's made of glass. You can't change that. Let them fill in the gaps. Attack relentlessly.
So that's
Attack
it. Just
relentlessly.
stop shooting threes. Just, you whatever gas you have in the tank, you should use it to be the old style LeBron, even though you're 40 now or 38 or whatever it is. Just attack
But
the
this
basket.
this is the thing I don't get. He gets this excuse. There's always an excuse. He's too old. He doesn't have good enough teammates. It's always the same shit over and over again with LeBron. He's too old. Though he's 40. Now he can assert his dominance. It's okay, but he's still the greatest. He's so good. He's always
Yeah, but
the
I
greatest.
mean, I think when people say the greatest, I don't think anybody is saying that he's the best player on the court right now. I think when people say the greatest, they're looking at his body of work, right?
LeBron is the greatest talent that ever graced this earth.
Okay.
He's also one of the worst competitors. He fades when it gets time. When it gets really tough, and this is why we love Jordan. Because those 6-0 finals? Because it's like a boxing ring. It's me versus you. And I'm not. You're over my dead body. You're gonna take it.
I understand.
And him is like, okay, he's so gifted, man. Talent. I mean, dude,
Yeah.
even at 38, look at him. He's as fit as it comes. He's the strongest. He's the biggest guy. He's probably the fastest guy still on the court.
So I think the point you're trying to make is that he's missing that separate
He's never had
factor, that killer instinct, that put them on your back. It doesn't matter who you're out there with when it's a close game. You got to know Lillard's coming from behind to block your shot. Don't let that happen. Like you got to put it on your shoulders and win. Okay.
Let Lillard block your shot. Let those things happen, but just relentlessly attack. Relentless.
All right.
You got to will your team to victory. How long are you going to let your other teammates take all of your blame? You're the GOAT. You're literally the best player of all time. You're going to pass Kareem's record. And the point is, is not that he's not amazing. He's fantastic. The point is we can't just keep giving him passes and not holding him accountable to the same way we held all the other greats accountable. And just putting him to the top of the pedestal because of his natural giftedness. Natural giftedness, I would put him and Wilt 1A, 1B. There's probably no one. Jordan's 1C. They're all natural. But that insane competitiveness, and it's me. I'm going to, like the flu game. Why do we love the flu game? Because 99.9% of people would fold. And then the other 0.05% would play and play terrible. But this guy gets food poisoning, plays, and then has a legendary game on top of it. And that's what we love. That's what we want from our athletes.
All right. Listen,
stop putting him on the pedestal of the people who have that greatness and saying he's there with them when all evidence proves contrary to that his entire career.
The Lakers,
and when he was in Miami, it was Wade who was the alpha.
Well,
I was the best player.
I was going to say
Wade
we get there. I mean, Kobe had Shaq too for a little while there, but I understand what you're saying.
What made Kobe and Shaq insane is Kobe and Shaq are alphas. That's when it gets fucking crazy.
I mean, is Philly going to win a game?
Yeah.
The
But,
Sixers
dude,
are
so
okay.
weird. So weird. Like,
I mean, tough start to the season. I mean, Boston's very good. I mean, it's a tough start to the season. And they were in all
I
the
really
games.
dislike. I don't rate Doc very high as a coach. Like, I think he's funny. He makes really funny faces. He has pedigree because he played. But like as a coach, he's probably been the coach that's been graced with as much, if not more, talent than just about anybody. And what he's done with that talent is probably made them worse than if he just didn't even show up to a game.
My favorite thing from basketball this week is the clip you sent me with Devontae Graham going out for the block. That was awesome.
Awesome.
Rejected.
I mean, dude, CP3 DeAndre Jordan, Blake Griffin, Jamal Crawford. That Clippers team was stacked. This was every one of those guys in their prime. Then before that, you have Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, Rajon Rondo, Kevin Garnett. One championship?
I listened to you talk about like how LeBron needs to turn it on. I guess what if he were here.
I did not say he needs to turn it on. He cannot turn it on. He needs to be held to the same standard. You can't put him on this pedestal of greatness, but not hold him to the same standards that you hold every other great to.
If he retired right now and just said, I'm retiring right now. Just that's it. I can't play this anymore because I'm so great and I just don't have it. And I can't put the team on my shoulders, and the team that's around me is not going to do anything.
Done that in his entire career. Do you know that?
What?
He's always deflected blame. He's never.
That would change it. That would change it. That would change your whole analysis. Because, I mean, Jordan played at the end of his career, and he was a shell of himself when he played for the Wizards. I mean, he wasn't Jordan anymore. He was old, and people attacked him. Like, just hang it up. You stayed on too long.
Same thing with Brady, right? That's the narrative right now. Brady, like you stay till you surely wish you would have. That's not what it is. It's the competitive drive, is what I'm talking about.
Okay,
it's how you.
Listen, I get it. You
could go out bloodied and all your arms cut off and missing an ear, but you're out there living it all.
It's one of the cool things about sports, man. I mean, you're not a LeBron guy. You're a Kobe guy, and you've become
you're a simple
Curry guy. No, I'm being serious, dude. That's not. But that is. What's great about the hobby and sports is that we're all simpletons, right? We're collecting cardboard pictures. Some of them have autographs of people who we are fans of. We should all be more simpletons and stop turning this into the stock market and all this other fun stuff. It's okay for me to say, without you getting pissed off, that you're not a LeBron guy. A LeBron guy wouldn't make the arguments that you're making. They would turn around and say, okay, Andrew, you're right. For the last couple of years, when he's 37 and 38, he's not putting an entire team on his shoulders because he can't. Right? Now, you have other arguments about how he never did, even when he was younger. Nobody's done what he's doing at his age. There are arguments he made both ways. So, yes,
he did
own it.
When he was
own
young.
it. You're not a LeBron guy.
That Mo Williams, that Zydrunas Ilgauskas, that team was terrible. And he put that team on his back. But always, it was the LeBron fans or the LeBron stands would always say it's because his roster is not good enough. He's not losing. They've used this excuse. It's never on LeBron. It's never his fault. They don't hold him to any of the same standard as any other great.
All right. Well, who besides Jordan, who are we comparing him to, right? Because I think that part of that is the comparison that's being made right now. People are trying to put Curry in the same conversation, and Curry's had one of the more dominant teams built around him.
Thank you all for listening to another episode of Lucas, Tigers, and Bronzo Mai. I wanted to tell you about a new service that we have starting as of today, and I'm really, really excited to bring it to you guys. So as a part of our partnership with SGC, we got 50 free submissions every single month, and many of you have taken advantage of that. And it's amazing that we could have the opportunity to 650 episodes, 675 episodes in, to go ahead and give back to our community. As people were sending those cards in, they asked, can we send 5, 10, 20 more cards to you guys? We'll pay for it, but we wanted them graded with SGC. You guys know SGC is turning cards around in 13 to 14 business days, have incredible customer service, and their secondary market values are going up day after day after day. And that's exciting for the hobby and exciting for the grading landscape. So we didn't want to just rush into it. We wanted to do it right. And what we did was I relocated here to Boca Raton, Florida. I opened up a P.O. box maybe 5 minutes away from SGC, and I will be hand delivering and hand picking up the cards. So you don't have to worry about anyone else touching your cards. It will be me, and I will update you every step of the way. So here's how it's going to work. I'm going to personally pick up the cards from a P.O. box, prep them, new card saver, new penny sleeve, and deliver them to SGC every single Tuesday. Why Tuesday? Well, it lets the stragglers over the weekend come back through on Monday and gives me a day to prep, and it basically gives SGC the entire week to work on grading those cards. Once your cards pop, only then at the end of the process will you be paying for the service. It's $25 per card, simple as that, and the turnaround times have never been faster. We're hearing right now 13, 14, less than 20 business days. So there it is. 9170 Glades Road, number 135 is the P.O. Box in Boca Raton, Florida. 33434. 9170 Glades Road, number 135, Boca Raton, Florida 33434. Of course, you could shoot me an email or shoot me a text anytime, and I'm always available. Many of you already have my email. It's iamandrewgoldberg@gmail.com, or my cell phone number 215-519-9154. Reach out with any questions. I could walk you through the process. I've hopped on the call with quite a few of you, and I'm happy to do that. Love you, Luca Nation.